Welcome to the holidays, folks. They are here, don't deny it. The Thanksgiving holidays just flew by, and now the Hanukkah, solstice, Christmas, Kwanzaa, New Year's holidays are upon us. Do I see smiles or frowns out there when you hear that? So how do you plan to survive the holidays, huh? That's the question I often hear at this time of year, and sometimes I hear it from myself as well. There's so much stress, so much anxiety, so much that needs to be done in such a short period of time, right? By the time it's all over, we need a holiday to recover from the holidays. But never fear, the fourth commandment is here, right? And it's just what we need this time of year. As you know, I'm sure you all know, the short version of the fourth commandment is, anyway, it is, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Remember now? Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Now, I've translated it into the theological language of Unitarian Universalism after really working at this for a long time to do this translation. And what I've come up with is, you shall take time for joy and light. Now, isn't that a good UU translation of that commandment? Now, I find it amazing, though, that in the middle of all of these 10 serious, demanding commandments of thou shalt not do this and thou shalt not do that, right in the middle of all that, there is this one commandment, this fourth commandment, that says essentially, hey folks, take some time off every now and then. Stop and smell the incense. Enjoy yourself a little bit. But this concept of taking time off is kind of alien for a lot of our folks. And the concept of Sunday as being a day of rest and spiritual rejuvenation has long gone, hasn't it? Now people fill it up with shopping and soccer and tasks that they couldn't accomplish during the week. But in Judaism, Shabbat is still practiced as an island in time, a sacred time of tranquility, of awareness, and of family. Now, I admire this tradition that claims no matter how busy our lives may be, we need one day during the week in which the world stands still, a time when you can rest at your spiritual center. For approximately 25 hours during the week, beginning at sunset on Fridays, the world comes to a halt for Orthodox Jews. Businesses close, the car stays in the driveway, the phone stops ringing, the radio, TV, and computer are off, and the focus turns inward to family and friends and to the inner self. Now, can you imagine that? Can you even begin to imagine that kind of tranquility? I think it's difficult for most of us to even fantasize that island of peace and quiet in our lives. Instead, what do we have? We have holidays and vacations in which we run full speed to see things, to go places, to get things done, only to end up absolutely exhausted and frazzled. Am I right? What keeps us from taking this kind of sacred time to ourselves? The theologian Walter Brueggemann warns against what he calls society's three great seductions that take us out of sacred time and space. The first is what he calls the therapeutic, which assumes that there is a product available to remedy all of life's discomforts. Then there is the technological, which convinces us that every problem can be fixed. And finally, there is the consumerist, which persuades us that we have the right to be happy and that happiness can be found through buying and possessing without regard to our neighbors or our planet. By accepting all of these assumptions, we become entrenched in a lifestyle that is so busy searching for salvation through consumption that we forget to stop and savor the world. This Thanksgiving, Terry and I joined our family at our son's home outside of Charlottesville. He and his wife live out in the mountains, and it's absolutely beautiful out there. And I'm always surprised when I go out there what a different sky it is at night than it is here. Here, you look up into the sky at night, and what do you see? Not much of anything. But out there, I was just standing out there and looking up at that sky, and it was just incredible. It was like a zillion stars and planets and meteors. It was a wondrous sight to behold. And when you stop to contemplate what an amazing world we live in, it takes your breath away. Did you see that this past week, NASA scientists discovered an organism that could point to new forms of life both on Earth and possibly beyond? Instead of having phosphorus, which is a basic building block for all of known life, it thrives on, of all things, arsenic, poison. And astronomers have recently discovered that our galaxy contains billions of planets with the same mass as the Earth. But even more wondrous is what we see and experience every day of our lives. I like the way the poet Mary Oliver describes this sense of wonder in her poem called The Sun. Have you ever seen anything in your life more wonderful than the way the sun every evening, relaxed and easy, floats toward the horizon and into the clouds or the hills or the rumpled sea and is gone? And how it slides again out of the blackness every morning on the other side of the world like a red flower streaming upward on its heavenly oils, say on a morning in early summer at its perfect imperial distance. And have you ever felt for anything such wild love? Do you think there is anywhere in any language a word billowing enough for the pleasure that fills you as the sun reaches out as it warms you as you stand there empty-handed? Or have you too turned from this world? Or have you too gone crazy for power, for things? How can we even begin to grasp such wonders in our life? From wonder into wonder existence opens, wrote the Chinese religious poet Lao Tzu. And the Jewish scholar Abraham Heschel said that wonder rather than doubt is the root of knowledge. And yet, if we don't give ourselves the time and space to experience wonder, then we miss out on the great joys and wisdom of life. The Buddhist writer Jack Kornfield tells the story of a renowned astrophysicist who was invited to give a series of lectures at the University of Arizona in Tucson. He responded that he was delighted to accept because he wanted to visit the nearby Kitts Peak Astronomical Observatory, which has one of the most powerful telescopes in the country. When the host responded that it would be impossible to give him the time to look through the telescope, because it was constantly in use, he told them that he would have to turn down their invitation to speak. The university suddenly changed its mind, and they made time for him to visit the observatory, and he was amazed at the beautiful sights he saw. The stars and the Milky Way glistened intensely and seemed almost close enough to touch, he exclaimed. But he was perplexed by all the people who had gathered around him, taking turns to look through the powerful telescope. Finally, he was told that these were astronomers attached to the observatory who had never had the opportunity of looking directly at the objects of their investigations. Isn't that incredible? Can you imagine being an astronomer who never gets the chance to see for yourself the incredible objects you're studying? And yet, how often do we take the time to see the beauty of the night sky, or the delicate intricacies of a leaf, or the fathomless eyes of someone we love, or the depth of our own souls? There is no shortage of wonder in our world, is there? It's all around us, in every moment and every inch of space. Our only shortage is being unable or unwilling to perceive it. We spend most of our lives in linear time, working, getting things done, feeding ourselves and each other. And these are important and necessary parts of life that give us the ability to survive, and if we work hard, and if we're lucky enough, even to thrive. But there has to be more to life than this, doesn't there? I like the non sequitur cartoon that shows a man at his dining room table, and he has all these papers spread out in front of him, and he says to his wife, "Good news, honey. Thanks to years of living within our means, diligently saving and making safe investments, we can now finally afford to die." To die. And the caption says, "Phil continues his reign as the king of attainable goals." If we live only in this linear time, we can easily become obsessive compulsive like Phil, always fearful that we're going to lose track of time, or we're going to waste time. Oh my God, that is something really to fear in our world. Our cell phones and PDAs and computers become like anchors that keep us from sailing into new dimensions of being. We may become overly willing to sacrifice our own personal time, not realizing that this island of tranquility is soul time, rich, textured, and expansive. We need more than linear time if we are to be renewed in spirit. We need a sacred time that is devoted to the heart, to the self, to others, and to eternity. Sacred time is not measured in minutes, hours, or days, but in meaning, wonder, and joy. This time outside of time is at the core of all the religions of the world, experienced through rituals and prayer and meditation and ceremony. Like an underground stream, this sustenance is always present, even if hidden, always ready to be tapped into to quench our thirst. During this season, the wonder of sacred time is ever present. We feel wonder at the cycle of the earth turning around the sun, bringing light back to us at the solstice. Jews feel wonder that courageous men fighting for a just cause can overcome their enemy. Christians feel the wonder of the Christ child coming into the world. And we all feel wonder at the endless possibilities of every child that is born. African Americans experience the wonder of Kwanzaa, which celebrates the endurance and resilience of their people. We don't have to accept the literal meaning of any of these holidays. That's not required. But we can be renewed by the inspirational stories and the deeper link to our humanity. Don't forget that even in the concentration camps, Jews needed to express their wonder by lighting a menorah made out of spoons. The fourth commandment calls us to open our eyes and our hearts in joy for the wonders of the world around us and within us. But to experience that wonder and joy, we must carve out the time and the space for ourselves. We can begin by making holidays truly sacred, by infusing them with meaning and purpose beyond a craving for material goods. And then our challenge is to stretch out that sacred time farther and farther until it wraps around everything we do in a spirit of transcendence and awe. Now, by coming to church, you have declared that this is sacred time for you to be in relationship to this supportive community, to be renewed as a spiritual person, and to intentionally become more ethical and just in your actions. But an hour out of the week is not enough, is it? How can we stretch this sacred time ever wider? Jonathan Haidt gives us a clue when he writes that most people approach their work in one of three ways: as a job, a career, or a calling. If you see your work as a job, you do it only for the money. You look at the clock frequently while dreaming of the weekend. If you see your work as a career, you have larger goals of advancement, promotion, and prestige. If you see your work as a calling, however, you find your work intrinsically fulfilling. You are not doing it to achieve something else. You see your work as contributing to a larger good, or as playing a role in some larger enterprise, the worth of which seems obvious to you. And I believe our lives can be experienced in a similar way. We can see our time on earth as a job, in which we're merely moving through existence to obtain and possess, or we can see our lives as a career in which, like Phil, we have certain goals we wish to accomplish before we die, or we can envision our lives as a calling in which we are a part of a greater whole and we give ourselves over to a greater purpose. I believe we are called to serve life from our wholeness and wonder, from a spirit of abundance and generosity instead of deprivation and desire. And when we accept life as a calling, then we live in its depths, sustained by sacred time that renews us and gives us meaning and purpose and joy. So let me suggest that you allow yourself to be called by a deeper spirit in this holiday season, one in which people are more important than presents, and one in which relationship is not a goal but a way of life. To take a step in that direction, I ask you to have a one-on-one conversation with someone today after the service, asking each other the question of the month, and that is, how have you experienced joy and wonder in your life? Oh, that could just lead anywhere, couldn't it? Take 3 minutes each to answer that question with no comments or questions by the other person. And also, let me suggest that you take a few minutes every evening this month to light a candle and to sit in silence and wonderment. To sit in silence and wonderment. It can't be a candle to celebrate Hanukkah or Christmas or solstice or Kwanzaa or none of the above. It doesn't matter. But light a candle and give yourself the gift of an island of tranquility and reflection, your own personal Shabbat. Then may you feel a spirit of renewal, and may you have a joyful, loving, and timeless holiday. Do I hear an amen?